You ever come home thinking, the worst thing waiting for you is a pile of junk mail, maybe a few bills, or some lousy HOA newsletter you'll toss in the trash? Yeah, well, let me tell you, sometimes you come back and there's a bulldozer where your pine trees used to be, and right then you know your life's about to turn upside down. That's how it started for me. Just one ordinary afternoon, tired from a 9-day contract out in Utah, ready for steak and quiet. But I pulled off the main road, hit the dirt track toward my little corner of heaven, and there it was. A brand new steel construction fence cutting a mean line right through my forest. Heavy equipment everywhere. Men in hard hats barking orders and some hideous green banner flapping around like it owned the place, announcing the future site of Sage Valley Community Center. Community Center my foot. I didn't even make it to my porch. I grabbed my gear and marched straight over. So picture me still dusty from the drive, squaring off with this foreman, a brick wall of a guy in a high-vis vest telling me to keep back for my own safety. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Buddy, I own this land. Who the hell told you to build here?" And he waves his clipboard, acting like my 6 acres, my home for 15 years, are just another parcel in their plans. The arrogance. I flipped through their so-called site plan, and wouldn't you know it, the boundary line was pushed 100 feet over right into my north slope. They'd labeled my woods as Lot A12, like it was always theirs. You know what I mean? It's not just a mistake. It's the kind of thing you only do if you think nobody's watching. Right about then, a sleek black SUV pulls up. Window slides down, and there she is. Karen Wellesley, HOA president, oozing that special blend of suburban menace. I recognized her from a zoning meeting, never liked my questions about runoff, and apparently she wasn't going to like what I had to say now. "Mr. Lawson," she chirps, "we've been meaning to reach out. We had a deadline, you weren't home." I cut her off. "You're trespassing." She doesn't blink. Tells me the records show Sage Valley owns it now. File a protest if you want, but construction's moving forward. The gall, right? It was like arguing with a brick wall covered in yoga pants and legalese. "We could have resolved this amicably," she says, like it's my fault for being gone. Let me back up a sec. If you've never dealt with a power-hungry HOA, count yourself lucky. They don't just play hard, they play dirty. So I went home, fired up my mapping software, started stacking evidence, overlaying drone footage, satellite images, the whole 9 yards. Turns out their expansion boundary overlapped my lot by nearly an acre. This was either gross incompetence or criminal. By midnight, I had a war chest, screenshots, time-stamped overlays, every legal pin and coordinate logged since the day I moved in. This wasn't my first rodeo. I knew if I wanted to keep my land, I had to hit first and hit hard. By sunrise, I was at the county clerk's office, evidence in hand, lawyer on speed dial. Diane, sharp as they come, not afraid of a fight, told me my data was surgical. She'd seen plenty of boundary disputes, but this one, she was going for their throat. By lunchtime, the judge signed a restraining order. All work stopped at least for a minute. I plastered red court order notices everywhere, right down to the rebar in their fresh concrete. And I waited. Not for long. That afternoon, the new site manager stomped over, waving the restraining order. Claimed the HOA, said I sold the strip last year in a private sale. I laughed in his face. I think I'd remember that. He didn't care, just passed on the message. But when his crew packed up and left for the first time in days, it was quiet. I almost felt sorry for them, almost. But that night something twisted. My parcel, 208C, now showed a transfer in the land records, 0.88 acres, supposedly sold to Sage Valley HOA, signed by me, but notarized by a guy who'd been dead for 2 years. And the signature a sloppy forgery supposedly authorized by some Joseph Nolan I'd never met. Power of attorney, fake notary seal, the whole 9 yards. If you've ever felt the back of your neck go cold, you know that moment. This wasn't just dirty, it was felony-level fraud. Diane and I went full throttle. Death certificate for the notary check, handwriting analyst check. We even traced the LLC behind the purchase back to wait for it Karen's brother Calvin Wellesley. This wasn't some rogue clerk, it was a shell game run by a family syndicate. And the deeper we dug, the uglier it got. I put GPS beacons back and hid new trail cams and backed everything up to the cloud. Yeah, I was tired, but I wasn't giving up. Not on my land. Next morning, hammering woke me up. The crew was back acting like the restraining order was toilet paper. I called the sheriff. Deputy Owens showed up, solid guy, not a fan of HOA games. He shut the whole site down right then and there. When I handed over the fake deed and explained the scam, his eyebrows nearly shot off his forehead. "You file a criminal complaint yet?" he asked. "Just about to," I said, and that's when I realized this wasn't just my fight anymore. Within days, things escalated. State investigators got involved. The county ethics board launched an audit. Diane ran the LLC's paperwork and found the same address, same office, same mailbox, everything tying Calvin Karen and their shell companies together. The kicker: someone at the records office had edited my parcel. Her name was Elise Tanner. And wouldn't you know it, she used to work for Wellesley Financial. The whole scheme unraveled fast. But Karen wasn't done. A few days later, I got hit with a lawsuit, HOA of Sage Valley versus Derek Lawson. Obstruction of development, property damage, harassment, you name it. Pure intimidation, hoping I'd fold. Then came a professional complaint against my license. Karen claimed I falsified survey data. If they could ruin my reputation, maybe they'd win by default. That's when the gloves came off. Diane countered with an emergency injunction. I dumped every scrap of evidence on the licensing board, and just for good measure, I tipped off the local news. That week, the story blew up. Channel 7 aired the whole thing. Satellite maps, drone videos, even the notary's death certificate right next to the forged deed. Karen caught on camera, slammed her car door in the reporter's face. Contractors bailed the county, froze the project, and suddenly neighbors who'd been quietly seething started coming out of the woodwork. Turns out I wasn't the only one she'd tried to steamroll. And here's where things get wild. Grant Fellows shows up at my door. They did the same to my cousin. He says, handing me a list. 6 families all scammed the same way, all too scared or worn down to fight. Not anymore. We built a case loaded with affidavits, GPS logs, every trick in the surveyor's book. State grand jury handed down indictments: Karen for land fraud, her brother for shell companies, the whole HOA board for obstruction. It was over, at least for them. Watching the bulldozers backtrack under court order concrete, torn out chunk by chunk, I'll admit it felt good. No, it felt right. My land was finally mine again. But the real win: that new park I built, wildflowers, stone benches, a solar beacon in the center, and a steel plaque. Surveyed, secured, settled. People started showing up, neighbors, hikers, old surveyors, kids calling it the battlefield. Some even brought lemonade. Funny how a place that was almost stolen became something worth sharing. Karen, she got 15 years. Her brother got 10. Restitution covered my costs, paid for the damage, and when the HOA was dissolved, I bought the adjacent land for less than a used pickup. Not a bad trade for all that hell. Some battles you fight with maps and legal filings, not fists or bulldozers. Mine started in the dirt, but ended in a courtroom and in a wild little park where people could finally breathe free. But I've got to ask you, if it happened to you, would you have fought or just walked away? How far should you go to stand up for what's yours, especially when the system's rigged against you? Let me know down in the comments, because if there's one thing I learned, it's that justice isn't just about the land. It's about drawing the line and daring anyone to cross it.